It's always been my belief that newly born technological civilizations immediately flock toward the center of the galaxy upon reaching the birth of technological construction in outer space. The gravitational collapse into other dimensions is irresistible. They will in effect go superlight dimensional and escape into the higher velocity dimension immediately ahead of us. Humans and dolphins will do this too. Perhaps within 1,000 years. In order to be able to understand the true structure of this universe, it would now be necessary to add a fifth dimension to the universe. Currently, we have 4 known dimensions as laid down by Einstein, 3 of space and 1 of time. Now we're going to add a 5th dimension to this universe, velocity. More specifically, the velocity of mass, or even more specifically, the effect that velocity has on atomic mass change, which is basically just velocity changing mass. This is actually a direction that you can travel. The direction of mass change as induced by velocity is a direction. You can go someplace and then be someplace else when you get there. Not only will you be someplace else, you will be something else when you get there. Because the where you're going and the what and the where are the same thing. And that is because velocity is changing mass to the point where mass no longer has anything in common with what it was before it was ever accelerated. Velocity is always changing mass. Even right now when I'm going like this right here with my hand. I mean, when I do this, I know I do that a lot. I'm not going to go into detail. But velocity is changing my hand into another dimension, basically. But it's so slight that it will take you from 72 to 700 hours to be able to comprehend this. The reason that it will take from 72 to 700 hours for you to successfully comprehend the 5th dimension within your brain is because the idea of atomic mass change as induced by velocity is outside the realm of human experience. In other words, it's not something that a human being would experience during the natural course of a human lifetime. It doesn't mean you have to think about it all the time, but just every once in a while you might want to think about it, especially if you're an astrophysicist. Now believe me, if you're not an astrophysicist or into science or anything like that, nothing could be a bigger waste of time than what I'm about to lay on you in the next 2 minutes. I mean, it will make absolutely no difference in your life whatsoever, completely inconsequential, okay? But that's pretty much the way it is. If you don't like it, give my fucking attorneys a call, okay? Gold, Dick, and Bavard, or whatever the fuck their name is, and, you know, I don't hear about it, basically. Now, to give you an overview of what Einstein said, Einstein basically said that if you travel at speeds close to the speed of light, you will begin to slow down in time. This is an actual fact. This is not science fiction, okay? Modern GPS systems run on this. This is an actual fact. You will not find a single reputable scientist on the planet Earth to dispute it. You can even prove it yourself if you wanted to with a couple of atomic clocks and a 747. I mean, no big deal. After Einstein came up with these calculations, he then looked at the whole thing and he said, okay, mass and gravity are actually bending space and time. Mass and gravity do not bend space and time like Einstein said they do. What we're actually experiencing there is velocity's effect on mass, and as a result, mass is experiencing time differently. Space and time are made up of infinite increments that are willing to accommodate whatever bullshit that mass gets itself into. And believe me, as we all know, mass can get itself into a lot of bullshit. I mean, gamma ray bursts, supernovas, extinction of the dinosaurs, Nipplegate. I mean, I myself being made of mass, or a living, walking example of why mass should probably not be outlawed, but you know, heavily censored at least. I mean, I remember one time the toilet overflowed, and I froze. I just stood there and watched it come out, and Dan came in and he just like freaked out on me. I just stood there and watched the water run away. This notion that mass and gravity actually bend space and time, as laid down by Einstein, may very well be the biggest misconception in the history of modern science. I mean, people have been born, gone to school, got their degrees, and then died believing this stuff. I mean, it's on par with the Flat Earth Society. We are living in Flat Earth times right now, believing this stuff. We really are. I don't like trashing the greatest scientists that ever lived. I feel I'm overcome with guilt just sitting here right now. I'm just like itching, scratching myself. I don't, I don't, sometimes I feel like sometimes I feel like Jimmy Swaggart.
I have sinned against you.
But what must be done, okay? It is important that you understand me here. That this is not bullshit. This is not just another person talking out of their asshole here. This is it. You need to understand this. It's critical for astrophysics to move forward. It cannot move forward without it. It might be able to move a little forward, maybe. I will give you this in 3 questions. I will ask you 3 questions. At the end of those questions, you're not going to see fireworks or anything like that go up. Nothing's going to happen. It'll just be a mundane moment. But eventually, over the course of about a month, if you keep it in your head and occasionally think about it, eventually the idea of the 5th dimension will naturally occur within your brain, and you will not have to use synthetic language in order to be able to understand it. Now, if you're somebody who thinks that maybe Sarah Palin would make an effective president, this might be a good time for you to go to the bathroom, and maybe just stay there for a while, okay? Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and ask you these 3 questions, okay, that will take you to the path of the 5th dimension. The first question is, do you believe that mass increases with increased velocity, or that velocity increases mass? Well, I'll answer that question for you. Yes, you do, because that's basic relativity. That's, it's already been answered by Einstein. Now, the next question's a little bit deeper, okay? Do you believe it's possible that velocity changes all the aspects of matter? In other words, it changes all the atomic aspects of it. Everything about it changes. Do you believe that? Well, that's kind of a leap in a way. This is actually supported by relativity, specifically in terms of the transformation of matter into energy in E=mc². You already see the change in matter that's taking place as we approach the speed of light with that equation. So it is supported somewhat. If you're willing to stay on board for that one. And then, of course, we have the final question. And if you incorporate this final question 3-dimensionally in your head, well, then you will have the 5th dimension in this universe. And that question is, do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe? God damn it, I can't remember what the hell it is. Give me this. Do you believe that velocity can change all the aspects of matter as it increases its velocity to the point where it no longer shares any common properties with what it was before it was accelerated? It's very simple, okay? You have mass sitting there, then you have velocity comes along and accelerates it to a fantastic speed and changes all its atomic qualities. Is it possible that velocity can eventually change it to the point where the piece of matter, after it's accelerated, has nothing in common with what it was before? When you get to that point, then it is dimensionalized. In other words, it still exists within the same 3-dimensional space, but can no longer affect ordinary matter. It means that right now, I could be sitting inside the interior of a star, but because my matter has nothing to do with its matter, nothing in common with it whatsoever atomically in any way, there's no reaction. And that's it. It's called the super universal dimensional postulate. But just don't worry about the super universal part. That's just window dressing, okay? Don't forget about that part. Doesn't mean anything. It used to be called an anti-reactional dimensional override. That was even more stupid. So forget about that too, okay? Actually, now I call it what's known as a VIOMOM. The VIOMOM, which stands for Velocity-Induced Atomic Metamorphosis of Mass. Just forget I said that too, okay? Just forget about it. Doesn't mean anything, okay? If this theory a velocity-induced atomic metamorphosis of mass is actually true, it will mean that this dimension that we live in actually exists in the constant funnelization in and the funnelization out of atomic matter. In other words, matter is constantly being funneled into this dimension from a slower velocity universe and then funneled out of this dimension into a higher velocity universe through black holes.